editor, which is very unreliable. But with a version control system, if something fails, you can revert what you did and go back to the working code, and then work from there again. It can really save time, as you don't have to rewrite your code that was previously working, as you can just go back to it.
Yeah, and another good analogy is probably like on Google Docs when you're working with your friends and you realize that you made a big mistake or something, you can always revert and see history.
Okay,
So more on version control. So Git is a distributed version control system, the VCS we just talked about in the previous slide. VCS, version control systems, they are what we use to track the history of change. There are other version control systems out there like Subversion and Mercurial, which are very less popular, I guess, compared to Git. Distributed means that Git doesn't require a central server. You can interact with other Git repositories so long as they share a common starting point, which we'll talk about later. Most teams use a central remote repository. You can use Git from the command line or a graphical user interface like Git Kraken, SourceTree, or GitHub's client. Regardless of which one you use, the concepts we cover will help you understand what's going on under the hood, no matter what. And today we're going to speak in terms of the command line usage, but the client you use will likely use similar terms.
Okay, so the Git repository. This is basically like a set of metadata that's added to your code. There's a folder called .git where most of the magic happens. It tracks changes in versions of the code base. Do keep in mind, if you don't have the setting to see hidden files on, you won't see this .git repositories, as operating systems very much like to hide folders or files that start with a dot. The files like the .git ignore are a part of the configuration of your repository. You can set up a repository. You can start using an existing repository by running git clone. When you clone a repository but create a copy of the files and of the history, the repo is now like the other, but not exactly the same. It has a shared record of history, but as soon as you make changes to the clone, you have deviated from the original.
Yeah, so Git is distributed, and this is absolutely fine because the changes you make to the local repository, which is the one you're currently working on, they're only stored locally. In order to sync them with a remote, you need to push to the remote. If there are changes on that remote that you don't have, you need to pull them. So there's push and pull. Like we said, most teams use a central repository model. There are plenty of places to host a repository, and you can run your own Git server, or you can use a cloud resource. Probably the best known of the hosting solutions out there is GitHub, so we'll use that as our example today. And GitHub is amazing because it has everything you need for free, so everyone can access it.
Yeah. So what exactly is GitHub? So if you think of an analogy as Git repositories being buildings, GitHub would be like a city with multiple buildings. And in this case, it'd be multiple Git repositories. With GitHub, you can contribute to other Git repositories, like we talked with the Git clone. And it can really help people contribute. And there are projects such as the Linux kernel operating system that drives much of the world, which is actually on GitHub. And you can actively like take a fork of it and change something and merge it with the main repository. So on the lines of that, like I talked, there are forks of repositories with different branches. So if you wanted to like take that, for example, I'm going to use Linux here as an example. The Linux repository, you can make a fork of it, and now that's basically your kind of branch. And branch is a term how we talked about how if you deviating from the original, it's something like that. And say you make the fork and you make your changes, like adding a cool feature to an app or something, and you want those to actually be implemented, and you can submit a pull request. And GitHub pull requests are GitHub's own thing. It's not like part of Git or Mercurial or anything like that. And the pull request is basically asking the main, the branch you're merging into, for example, the main branch. It's like asking, hey, can you put my changes into your branch? That would be cool.
Yeah, so now we're going to talk a little bit about Git Flow. So we've learned a bunch of different concepts and keywords, and now we're wondering how do we apply them to actual development. So if you remember nothing else about working with Git, what you should remember or take away is that the right Git workflow is the one that helps your team or you stay the most productive. So one common workflow is called Git Flow. And the core concept in Git Flow is to keep one branch, often called the main, keeps the main in a stable working state. And you should never merge unstable code to the main because main is supposed to be remaining stable. And you can call that branch whatever you want, but calling it main is just a very common convention. The branch that you make changes to is called the development branch, and it should be in a working state as much as possible, but it is the place where features can be added and tested together. Those features are created and developed on individual branches called feature branches.
So moving on to merge conflicts. Say you have a branch and you want to, in this case, you want to merge the main branch, as Elizabeth was talking about. Git uses a strategy to decide which code to use and which to overwrite. Sometimes that strategy fails. This is mostly the consequence of two people editing the same portion of code. When you run into a Git merge conflict, you can resolve it by editing the code directly. The conflict will look something like these greater and less than symbols. And this is a good graphic to show you which code is part of the other branch and which part is your branch. It can be hard to resolve a conflict, but when you do, you can add the file and continue the merge in much the same way as you would do and commit a file in a normal commit.
All right, so now in code reviews, what a code review looks like varies from team to team. But the best way to use Git, as we mentioned earlier, is the way that makes your team the most productive. So you can look at pull requests on a GitHub repository to see an example of what code reviews look like in practice. There's plenty of examples online. I don't think we're going to show any right now.
Okay, so here's a fun fact. Git was actually created by the dude who made Linux. I was mentioning that before. And he actually made Git as a side project to maintain the code for Linux. So that's really cool in my opinion. So now it's time for a demo. So what we've done here is we've created a repository with a file called myfile.txt. And so what we can do to clone this is you can head over to this download button of the code, and there's a URL with HTTPS here. You can just copy that. And Elizabeth, I believe you have the link, right? Or
yeah, can you send it in the chat?
Yeah, sure.
And then maybe I could share my screen. Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, I'll stop my share so you can focus on Elizabeth's.
Okay, so I pull up git bash, which is right here, and then I'm just going to type git clone, right?
So we talked about Git cloning before. It's basically putting it on your local machine from the remote repository. In this case, the remote is hosted on GitHub. So now it's on Elizabeth's machine.
Yeah, so I guess I have to share my other screen to try to find. Okay, let me first list what's in here. Don't mind these other things.
Oh, I think you scrolled that, yeah.
Stubum's repository was called Git Pre-Workshop, and now you can find that in my local computer, which is pretty cool. Again, don't mind my other very messy files, but the idea was I cloned Git Pre-Workshop, and now it's in my computer. So should I unshare this part and try to find? Okay.
Yeah. So now we had a file called myfile.txt. Now Elizabeth's going to go and edit that and simulate how it is.
Do you want to, as when I'm pulling it up, do you want to show like the
Yeah, I can share the
.txt
Git.
file that you have
Yeah.
in your GitHub right now?
Yeah, after you're done pushing, I can share. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to edit the README or the my file?
My file, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So now I'm going to be sharing the my file. So this was one of the things that was cloned from Shabam's repository. So it says cool contents. If you go to his GitHub repo, it's supposed to also say cool contents in there. So now I'm going to edit it. What should I write?
Just edit, like add a new line. That's cool. And we shall be putting the link to this repository so you can see the changes in real time. Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just going to save it and stop sharing. Okay.
I think you can share multiple windows as well.
Gotcha. Oh, well, that's fine. Okay, let me just share now my bash again. Okay.
So now she's basically, so Git has a process when you push to the repository. So there are different stages. So there's like a commit stage. Now she's adding the entire, oh no, I don't think you should do git add dot. You should go into the actual directory. But she's
Oh, right. Jeez.
she's gonna add the changes she made to the staging like area. You could think of it physically as an area. And in that area, we're going to make a commit. And from that, we're going to push our local changes to the remote. And in this case, the remote is the one I sent in the chat.
Yeah, so, okay, ls basically means list all the things that are in your directory right now. So I just listed everything and I want to go to Git pre-workshop. So I'm gonna write cd, which means change directory, space, and then git.
You can hit tab, right?
Yeah, you can also do tab, but I just want to be, yeah. Okay, awesome. So now I'm on the main, which we just mentioned in the slides earlier. Should I just add everything now, or should I go into?
Yeah, just do git add
Okay.
and yeah,
So git add dot means just like add everything
in the current
onto what I
directory.
currently have. And then once I add it, I can commit it. I think it's with a message.
Yeah. So what commit basically does, it's like a checkpoint. You could think of it as a checkpoint. This is basically creating a checkpoint to like if you want to revert these changes she made, you can just go back to these checkpoints that she made. And without the git add, what would happen is nothing would be committed, as there's nothing in the commit staging area. There's nothing that the commit sees as we can push this. What she did with the git add is putting it into the commits, like just putting it so that commit can actually see what to like commit, and that's how it works basically. So now she'll
And you
push
can
to the
also do
remote,
stuff like git status.
which
So
yeah.
it kind of just shows how everything is, like, I guess, on par with each other. However, the branch is one ahead of the main by one commit. So now all I have to do is enter git push to fully push this onto the GitHub repository. I believe that is it. Yeah, so now it's done. So now if Shabam actually opens up his GitHub repository, he will be able to see the changes that I made when I wrote hello, code day is cool and stuff like that.
So we can go into myfile.txt, and yep, there it is.
Yeah, and you can see that it says I made the latest commit 1 minute ago. And just a quick disclaimer, if you ever use GitHub with your friends, you always have to, once you make a repository, you have to share it with their email. And so Shabam did share this repository with me ahead of time.
So you can see here, yeah, we can see that Elizabeth is added here. What would happen if they don't have, if they're not a collaborator, what would happen is they would have to submit a pull request, as we talked earlier, and we will be demonstrating that later. So should I think I'll pull. So what I'll do, I'll screen share my terminal.
I think we have 10 minutes left. I don't know if that's enough.
Oh wait, when does this session end?
Oh wait, never mind. Sorry.
We have like an hour left, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I have the link to the repository. So what I will do is git clone, and then we paste the URL here. So that is the URL to my Git repository. I can hit enter. And now if I type ls, we can see that it's right here. So we can cd into that, change directory into that. And if we type ls, we see my file.txt here. And we can even see the changes she made. So if I cat means displaying the contents of a file.
This is in Linux, by the way.
Yeah, Linux. On Windows command line,
it's a little iffy.
Syntax is a bit different, but if you use like a notepad or anything, it'll be fine. I'm just using through the terminal because I don't want to open my text editing application. So we can see that Elizabeth made her changes here, but let's say I want to make my own changes, or what we could do, we could even make a new branch. So what we can do, git checkout -b, and I want to make my branch say cool. So now if we say git branch, this is the command to show which branch you are. Now I'm on cool. You'll see an asterisk and it's highlighted in green.
So
now what
earlier,
we can do,
I guess the common one is main, and he just switched it. So
yes. So now if we if we edit this file, I'm going to use it from the terminal. This is Vim, but you don't need to know Vim for this. So if instead, what we can do, instead of like adding new lines, what we can do, we can change what Elizabeth put here. So it could be GitHub is code day is the coolest. So I'll save that, and then I'll do git add dot git commit tag made cool changes. So I'm adding a git commit message, and if I git push that. Oh wait, I forgot. So what we can do now to simulate it, we're going to be showing you how to handle a git conflict. So what we can do as so what happened right here, there's no branch in my actual GitHub repository, my remote repository. There's no branch called cool, right? So it doesn't know where do I push this? I don't know where to push this. So that's why it's giving me the error. So we're not gonna we're not gonna make a branch on GitHub, but instead what we're gonna do, we're gonna merge the changes locally. So I believe the changes we can do is, or we have to switch to the main branch again. Yes, git checkout. Yes, I believe, yeah. Git checkout main. So now we're on main. So we git branch. We're on the main branch now. Now what we can do to merge the two branches. So now we're kind of like, we had two different histories. Now we're just making them one. So if we do git merge cool. So now I think we're on the main branch. So yeah. So now we've merged the two branches together. And if we now if we try and push, so if we add the we add it to the staging area, commit coolness. So now that worked successfully. So now we've merged two branches together. And if we check here, wait, let me stop my stream. I'll start a new share. How about that?
I think also the link is in the chat. If you want to check that.
So yeah. Now if we go here, this was from the local branch on my computer. You guys remember when I made a new branch, that those changes came directly over here. Yeah, so yeah, I'll hand it back to Elizabeth for more demo.
Oh, I don't know. I don't really have anything to show right now. Unless someone has any like questions, or I think we missed a few slides for the rest of the presentation.
Oh, okay. So back to the presentation. Yes. So we're done with the demo. So the hypothetical Git repository would be to initialize slash clone, make a branch, change the and commit and repeat, and then we can push to the remote repository and make a change, like make changes in GitHub, like merge two branches together, and then pull from the local. So I guess I could wrap it up right now.
Yeah, I think the next slide also, like I put a few resources. I think when I first learned how to use Git in GitHub, I used the Katacoda tutorials, so definitely recommend that.
So yeah, Elizabeth, you can post those in the chat.
Oh yeah, sure. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, you can post it in the Zoom chat.
If not, I guess we could end it at 9.
Oh, okay. So we saw a question: how do I access it from the terminal? What you can do.
I think you said, how do I access the terminal?
So it depends on what operating system. If you're on Windows, you can go to the Start panel and get go to the Windows command prompt. Or a better option is to get Git Bash, as it uses Linux to so you can navigate directories much easier. And if you're on Mac, I believe Git is pre-installed, or you might have to install Xcode developer tools. And on Linux, you would use a package manager such as apt on Ubuntu, Pacman on Arch Linux to install Git. And you would just cd into the directory that you have. On Windows, you can open the current directory in Git Bash, and that would place you in like the actual folder you want to be in.
Yeah, and as you might have noticed when Shabam and I were giving like demos, there was always Git whatever and then what you wanted to do. So it's kind of like telling Git, hey, I want to, I guess I want to do something with this in Git,
Yeah.
and then kind of commit or push or add whatever.
So definitely for further resources, you can check the chat again, and those can like open you introduce you to more commands and how to efficiently like if you didn't really absorb much of the knowledge that we gave here, much of the talking we gave here, you can always just check out those resources and get more familiar with more time. And we would love to see more Git repositories for your code day projects if you're attending, and that would be cool. And definitely check out open source projects, as because open source is like, if like the code, anybody can see the code basically. Do check them out, and if you can add things, just add them and submit a pull request. We on our Discord server, we actually have a bot named John Peter. We can,
that's open source, right?
that is open source. You can add new commands, for example, and I will link that. If you know Python or anything like a discord.py, you can definitely check out this repository. It's Code Day's own Discord bot.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
If you don't know Python, I'm sure there's another Code Day workshop on Intro to Python, so
Yes.
keep your eyes peeled for that. Okay, any other questions? I think we can end this kind of at 9. Going once, going twice.
Okay, looks like no more questions.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Hopefully you learned some high-level stuff from this presentation. Awesome.
Wow, nice.
Let's go, Shabam. You did an amazing demo. I don't
Yeah,
know
many
why,
people are
but
still
for
here.
actual demos, I am never able to follow along because I feel like they always go so fast. But props to you, Luatzi.
Yeah. We didn't really want to do. We didn't really know how to do you guys. Oh wait, I think you left, but the people are still here. I don't. There are multiple complications in actually getting the Git installed. Like if you're on Chromebook, it's
Oh yeah,
you
Chromebook is like nasty.
you would have to take a couple hours out of your day to get that installed. So yeah.
Yeah.
You guys can leave. The workshop is over basically. Or we can end it.